Hey nerds, welcome back to Nerds Since 86. I am Kyle, and in this video we're going to be talking about the first episode of the 2020 reboot slash continuation of Saved by the Bell. If you grew up in the 80s like me, 86, you will have most definitely watched Saved by the Bell. The show was in the 80s into the 90s. It spawned spin offs like The New Class, The College Years. There was a Hawaii movie. There was even a wedding. For me, every morning in the school holidays, Saved by the Bell would be on. I can't even remember the channel anymore. Maybe Channel 4. I'm not sure. Maybe Channel 5. I don't even know if that was around yet. But yeah, in the UK, I think we got it a lot later than the US. But oh my god, it was my favourite show. Like, Zach Morris was my hero. I suffered from a bout of impetigo about 6 years ago. At that time, all of Saved by the Bell was on Netflix. It may have been when I was using different regions of Netflix, but I watched the whole show whilst I had this impetigo and couldn't leave a room, which sounds very much like having COVID-19 in 2020. I loved Saved by the Bell just as much then as I did when I was a child. So let's be honest, we always wanted to see a reboot, and then there was talk. There was always this little bit of talk from the cast through reunions and such about would they come back for Saved by the Bell. Finally, it's happened. We've got a new Saved by the Bell. We have got cast members back. It might not be the show we thought we would get, where we just continue with the old cast, but maybe this is actually the best approach to take. To set up the situation for you, the show takes place at Bayside High still, so the school is still the same as from the new class and from the original series, Saved by the Bell. The premise is that Zach Morris is now governor of California. Not sure he's especially the best governor. He's still married to Kelly, so Zach and Kelly, endgame, it worked out for them. She's now the first lady of California, as we find out. To save money, Zach has cut about $10 billion, I think, from the budget for schools and such. So a lot of schools are closing, and it appears that there was no real plan for what to do if the schools closed. There's some funny scenes where our new main character, as we'll meet Daisy, is trying to run for class president in, I think it was Douglas High. I might have the name wrong on that, but in Douglas High, and then she talks about how they can still get through this tough time, but then mid speech, the principal comes in, says the school's now closed down, but you can learn stuff off the internet, so we'll try that. So whether it was intentional or not, it feels like there's a good few jokes in here about what went on in 2020 for like learning, e-learning, and things like that. Zach Morris, or Governor Morris, or Governor Zach, I think we hear him get referred to as, because he wants to be popular still. He is almost through his own sense of pride forced into agreeing to send all these kids from these low income areas, because these are the only schools he's closing down, into the high income area schools, so which is where Bayside High falls. This basically ends up with a situation where the show Bayside is pretty much a bunch of white rich kids, and so a lot of privileged white rich kids, but everyone coming up to the school is from the low income ones, happen to just be like black kids. So the show is playing on a lot of stereotypes, but it knows it's doing it. It's not like an offensive one. Like it gets called out for it all the time. It calls itself out for it, which is hilarious. I didn't get it right away. I didn't quite get what was going on. So let me explain this to you before we get into the plot. Because that is the setup for the show. We have these low income kids from these low income areas going to the rich kids' school, the rich white kids' school. Now, the first episode took me some getting used to, because on one hand it felt very normal. We had some normal kids, the ones who come from the low income areas. But on the other hand, we had some very sort of stereotypical, over the top characters who were already at Bayside. We meet Zach Morris's kid, Mac. He's completely over the top, bit of a jerk. He's not a nice guy. And whereas Zach was always well intentioned, Mac isn't. Mac is a real douche. But he still kind of is doing the stuff his dad used to do in school. I'm probably getting away with it more because of who his dad is. We meet a lot of characters on there. We meet Lexi as well. Lexi's the most popular girl at school, and she is friends with Mac. Frenemies, they call each other as well. And they have another member of their group who, I think it was Jamie, I believe, who's actually Jesse from the original series kid. So Jessie is on this show as well. So we do have more connections to the old show. Jessie works at the school as a counsellor. Jessie's hilarious in this. I never especially found Jessie that funny in the original show, but she is really funny on this show. I really enjoyed having her back on it. Slater's in it as well, and we'll come on to Slater very shortly. But the characters who come over, Daisy, Devante, Aisha, they're the ones who come up. They're really normal. They're really normal. But Lexi, Mac, Jamie, they are just mind-blowingly over the top crazy. And it took some real getting used to. Until I realised that it was intentional. That they're taking these real people from these low-income areas and they're dropping them into this almost parody of what Saved by the Bell kind of was like before, but then also with the idea of just how oblivious these kids are, these white kids are to real life and the struggles of real life, and even their family. In later episodes, and those reviews will drop very soon, the very next episode to this has the mums involved and has some hilarious jokes based on just them not realizing they're being racist by their attempts to not be racist. And I thought it was great fun. So I really enjoyed the mashing up of styles. It was deliberate. It's making fun of itself. Whereas I don't think that really twigged for me until the second episode. So the first episode was a bit like, oh God, I don't know how this is working. I don't know if this is my thing. But the second episode, I realised that was just deliberate. The joke and the humour, a lot of that was coming from how just ridiculous these privileged kids are and their life is and all of that. And how what we didn't even maybe realise was going on in Saved by the Bell, the original, was how those kids lived. So that was good fun. And I really got used to it by episode 2. If you're just watching this review now and you haven't seen the whole show yet and you get into the first episode and you're not sure, wait, because it starts to feel and make so much more sense by episode 2. And these are short episodes, you haven't got to wait long. One important aspect of Saved by the Bell show, if you're going to make it good, is you've got to have a good principal. I really enjoyed Principal Todman. I thought he was good fun. The actor is great, seen him in many a thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it works. He's the typical underpaid, overworked, sort of neglected principal of the school. There's a joke in the episode about how the teachers have worse cars than the kids. So I really appreciated that humour. That did it for me. So I initially, for some reason, thought this show was about Jessie and Slater being parents to one of the kids, and that they were together. But that wasn't at all right. So it was a surprise for me when I discovered that Slater works at Bayside High as a pretty much failed football coach, and Jessie works there as a counsellor. And yes, they appear to have been in each other's lives for years and years, but they are not a couple. She has apparently taken him to HR over some of the comments he's made about her, where he's sexualized her. They make a joke out of that. You shouldn't really laugh at that kind of stuff now, but it was funny based on how the characters were before, knowing how uptight Jessie used to be. And they've updated that really well to 2020 when this show came out, and for this new decade. So they've still kept that aspect of her, but have added a little bit of the silliness that they've given to everyone who existed at Bayside in that little Bayside bubble before our new characters have come and burst it. It's so sad for me that Slater just became a football coach who's not got much going on. He eats soup in his car or melted ice cream, as he says. He hasn't really done well with the football team for so long, and it's so sad because Slater, you just always assumed they'd all go on to new good things. And it turns out they haven't. Yes, Zach is now governor of California, but he's not great at it. The way he became governor appears to be exactly how Zach would normally fall into those positions. Yeah, it's a shame, but it's nice to see Slater with a normal job. And even Jessie, who, the old show would make us believe she's going to become the president of the United States one day. I kind of like that she's just a counsellor. Because in that bubble that they existed in before, you believe you can do anything. The world is your oyster. You can do this, you can do that. And yes, she was really smart then, and yes, she could do lots of things, but that's not always how it goes. So I like that she's just like a counsellor at the same school she went to, and that she has a son there who's not all that smart. He's definitely not got her genes. We haven't met her husband at this point, but Slater's making some jokes, kind of in jealousy, but it sounds like the husband is maybe not to the same level that Jessie herself was as we saw her growing up. So I kind of like the reality of that, the real world approach to it. So big fan of that. The episode's main plot is about how our new lead character Daisy is wanting to run for class president. She has an impassioned speech when she realizes she can't really run to Mac and to Lexi, but she then gets the part because they realize that they've got a lot of work to do themselves. Like during spring break, they want to enjoy spring break, whereas Daisy wants to go to the Washington leadership convention thing, which happens in spring break. They let her have it because they don't want to do it anymore. She becomes class president. She's accepted. She's going to change things at the school. Good message there. But what I did love, and I think it's the funniest thing, and I think if you don't get what the show's doing, it would have been lost on you. At the end in the corridor, when Mac and Lexi are talking to Daisy, and they say, you're welcome. They really just want the job for a parking spot. So they say, look, we got you this, but we want the parking spot because we'd like us both to have it because we've learned how to share and things like that. And the way they deliver these lines about the lesson they've learned this week, which we'd get from the old show. And Daisy's just like, no, I've got other plans. They keep going. It was just so funny the way they played out this message of what they've learned that week and what the themes were about sharing and caring and all these things. And it was kind of like, no, what are you on about? You were living in a fantasy world. So I really appreciated that. And it was around then and the start of the next episode that I really understood what was going on with this Saved by the Bell show, and I'm down with the style now. So how would I sum up the first episode of Saved by the Bell? I would say it's called pilot, as in it is a pilot, and it feels like that. You have to watch the next episode. I think if you're not down with the next episode, maybe that's the time to pull away, but you need to watch more than one together to really get a feel for the style of this show. I think that it's a really fun show. I like my comedy to be a bit offbeat, so I'm down with that. I really loved some of the nostalgia hooks. We see Daisy using a phone that Zach used to use from the 80s, the big massive phone, and she's using that as an actual phone at one point, which I know it wouldn't work nowadays, but it was still a funny gag. For me, the show's completely worth it. I can't wait to get into the rest of the season and find out more about the characters, see where the comedy's going to take us, and see what the show does tell us about, because it's quite a real show. It subverts your expectations. We have in Aisha, we've got a woman who is the best football player at the school. In Devante, we have a guy who looks like he should be on the football team, but just wants to be part of the musical, the choir, I guess it's called. I don't know if there's any different names in America for it. In Daisy, we've got the lead of a Saved by the Bell show who is almost the exact opposite of Zach, but not in the way that Jessie was. She is very smart, but she also finds herself in these comical situations. Like the world she's now in is so alien to her in how ridiculous it is. And that really works well. So when her and Mac are clashing, I think it's really funny. Is there going to be a love interest there? Not sure. I mean, the problem is it's hard to root for Mac as a love interest because Mac is not very... Mac's just not a nice guy. It'd be hard to see them ground him enough to be able to go that route with it. So I'd be curious to see if they do that. But yeah, I thought the cast of characters were great. We look at Lexi, who is a transgendered girl, who's the most popular girl in school. And again, that is, taking your expectations of how they may deal with a certain storyline or character, person, and going somewhere completely different to it than what we've seen previously on the show. And the characters accept Lexi for that straight away. The show doesn't make a big deal out of it. It's mentioned briefly once, I think, in this episode. 2 lines of dialogue, maybe, that cover it. And no one cares. And that's how it should be. And there'll be people who'll take issue with that. But we don't care about those people. This show isn't for them. This show is for progressives. I actually thought Lexi stole the show. I thought Lexi was a fantastic character. My favourite one so far. Lexi and Slater, I would say, are the 2 show stealers. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with them going forward. But Lexi's hilarious and just great fun. I can't wait to see just what hijinks she gets involved in. She does not see the world the way you or I do. And I think that's true of a lot of the existing Bayside characters. But I'm really curious to see how the new students are going to mix with that world, and if it's going to corrupt them, or as is probably more likely, is are the new students going to give the old students, the parodies almost, a new perspective? I'm not sure yet, and maybe the comedy's going to come from that battle always taking place and never really getting any resolution. But it could be solved with a dance off. Also, big shout out to just the set design. These are like the same sets pretty much to look at visually. There's more locations, so the school feels bigger. Space High with the main corridor we always used to have in Saved by the Bell, and the lockers and the classrooms off to the side and the stairs. That's all there, as is Belding's office, which obviously Principal Belding's not in now. Just the whole thing is still the same school, and there's an odd comfort in that. And because schools don't often change that much, they start to get run down and things like that. So it worked perfectly, I thought. What I really liked about the premise as well is the last time we saw Bayside High really was when the school was going to be closed down in the new class because of lack of money. And it was Zach and co who came and saved the day and found the sort of financial resources and stuff to keep the school open. And so to see how the school has excelled since then, to become a top premier school, and it's now housing students from schools that have got closed down. I think it's an interesting way to take the show. So yeah, I was a big fan. And so do I give a thumbs up or thumbs down to Saved by the Bell on Peacock? Get on Peacock. It's a thumbs up, definitely. I can't wait to watch more. Can't wait to drop more reviews. What did you think of Saved by the Bell? Drop your comments on the first episode below. Maybe we can have a conversation. See what you liked, didn't like. But generally, let's keep it positive, guys. We're here for the fun vibes.